Western Maryland has a multitude of agricultural products: corn, hay, sunflowers, grapes, marijuana, art. $250,000 will buy you a 2-year cultivation license. Are you going to apply for one?
Here's the deal. I'm not going to apply for a license. I'm going to build a sheet store.
Oh,
Because
really?
all of those marijuana smokers will be out looking for munchies, and that's what we're going to have at the sheet store.
Break out the munchies.
Break out the munchies. Get your fingers to turn yellow with the Cheetos.
Yeah, the potato chip companies' stock went up.
So you see a business opportunity.
Oh, I
here,
think there's a huge business opportunity, and why put up with all the stuff with growing marijuana? I never had a green thumb anyway. I'd probably grow it as brown, but all jokes aside, I mean, maybe that wasn't a joke, but seriously, I think this is probably has some business potential for Washington County. I mean,
I certainly agree with that.
Get past the moral piece and is it a gateway drug and all of those things.
I mean, there's tons of that.
But this is medical marijuana for the purpose.
Sure. Right,
This particular proposal, which out of just a pure sense of compassion, I mean, I've met some of these people who, in fact, use it for those purposes.
Sure.
You know, and it would seem to me, well, gee, if you can do that. I mean, the biggest drug problem, according to Doug Mullendore, who spoke at our club, the Democratic Club, you know, this past time, said is really the prescription drugs.
Oh,
which
yeah.
are
Well,
far more of a problem than this marijuana.
Here locally.
Here
But
locally,
but
right
now
here.
this is going to be a prescription drug.
Well, yes, but
But
I
it's
mean, it's
not
far
as
better
addictive as some of
to
the
be
other ones.
regulated than not. They're going to get it anyway. Let's face it.
Okay.
Well, this way we can tax it too.
Yeah, we
grow
can tax
here.
it, regulate it.
Why don't they feel this way
So-
about guns?
Well,
Isn't that the same point?
Well, marijuana is not as dangerous as a gun. A joint is not as dangerous as a gun. Give me a break.
I don't know
I mean,
about
that's
that.
not an equivalency.
well, I'm not sure that there's not some correlation. But
Every
anyway,
policeman would
Well,
tell
I'm
you he'd
sure they're
rather
gonna
deal
have
with a
people out
marijuana
there.
smoker than a drunk.
but the other
They tell you that. Ask a policeman.
Okay.
the other point on
They're more
this
laid back.
is Jim brought up are we promoting a gateway drug? I mean, even though we're going to use it for medical purposes, we all know that some of it will creep over into the mainstream and be used outside of the medical community.
Yeah, well, there's a
So
huge
is this
supply already.
You know,
Yeah.
is this a
Well, and I
then
mean, you
is
could call
this a
anything.
point then from back to the business model? Does that mean we're going to see lower prices, which means more people can afford it, which means more people on the road to what's the opposite of salvation, Tom? On the road to
Damnation.
perdition. Yeah, there we go.
Damnation, whatever you
There
like
you
to
go,
call it.
there you go.
But, you know, we certainly tried that with alcohol, and look what happened.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's far worse, according to most scientists, than, you know, smoking a joint.
Well, and there
And
are.
it's ruined many more lives, and yet we think it's wonderful. In fact, and I should know this for a fact, I live across the street from a new winery. Our local commissioners changed some of the regulations and laws to make it easier to have wineries and people drinking at them across from my house. On my street in Little Roarsville, we'll have a few drunks, and they think that's just fine. Medical marijuana is not going to do half as much as that.
Now, let me.
But
Well,
see,
let
we're
me.
saying prescription drugs. Some of them are very addictive, and there are a lot of them that are in the black market, and that's
Yeah.
where a lot of, and that is more of a gateway drug. You know, if you take that, and the next step is then something stronger, and eventually you end up with cocaine and all that kind of stuff. So there's more of a correlation from prescription drugs to the harder drugs than there is from marijuana.
Decidedly
You know,
so. That's
yeah.
what Doug Mullendore made a real point of.
Let
that
me
last
jump
meeting.
back on the economic side of this thing. We have in Washington County the right soil for wine,
Yes.
and we also have the right
In
soil.
portions of Washington
Yeah,
County.
and we also have the right soil for marijuana. So I mean,
How do you know that, Art?
it's been a lot of
I don't know
Said he had
that.
a
a lot of
brown thumb.
publicity,
Okay,
you know,
okay,
about
yeah,
it, and
I think you're right.
And we also, evidently,
I think you're right. I agree
for
with you.
wine and for marijuana, this is we've got a good growing climate here. So I mean, you know, I could take clearly take a a business approach to this and say, yeah, okay, I'm all
I mean,
for
you
it.
know,
I mean,
we could use a few jobs in Washington.
well, there you go.
Well, I
There
think
you
you can become addicted to anything. There are people that become addicted to alcohol. There are people that become addicted to chocolate. I mean, you know, should we sit?
Chocolate?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, people that are addicted to sweets and that kind
Sugar,
of thing.
absolutely.
Cigarettes.
You know, but cigarettes. I mean, do we need to take everything and go? You know, there is a line for addiction in anything that you can dream of.
Sure.
And legalizing marijuana to me is more of a, like you said, an economical boost, and we can tax it. It's on the black market already anyway, and people going to jail for it. And some of the folks that are serving time will never be able, they will have a hard time fitting back into society for one little wrongdoing of carrying a couple grams with them, you know. So
what
if
I
that
hear,
goes away, then
what I hear you saying
better.
is the government should get out of people's lives. Is that what I'm hearing?
there is that.
Okay.
Well, I
there's-
think in this instance, the
there's-
government has no
Yeah.
business with morality as such,
Yeah.
which is very different than other regulatory things for protection. In this case, it's, you know, there's a lot of debate here. And I don't know, it'd be a great, you know, help to the bottom line for the tax revenues in Washington County. Wouldn't hurt that.
Well, it's, I mean,
Maybe a different faction will
and
actually pay
quite
taxes
honestly,
now.
I have no problems whatsoever with something like marijuana, alcohol, tobacco,
Yeah.
with those being taxed.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I've been a strong proponent of a consumption tax. So the more you use those things, the more tax you pay. The less tax maybe I have to pay because I don't consume those
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah, I mean, we make tons of money off of alcohol.
Well, sure.
No, the government does, and nobody complains about that,
and
that
so
I know of.
So I mean, I could take the governmental model and say, yeah,
Yeah.
that this makes sense from the government's point of view. Makes a lot of sense from the business point of view,
And from the compassionate
yeah,
medical point of view also.
I'm going
I
to jump
looked
in
that
with
up,
you.
so.
I'm going to jump in with you, Tom. You're
Yeah.
you're not wrong on that. But you know, we had a guy
We
from the
agree.
DEA up. Well, I'm like I say, I'm not ready to jump on. I just took that survey to find out which candidate I would most
Yeah.
likely support. We had it up on the Flipside. If anybody's interested on the Flipside webpage or Facebook page, you ought to take that. Interestingly enough, I didn't come out as a Donald Trump supporter. I was really surprised. Really surprised over that. But
He just went up in my estimation.
was well, you know, I mean, I was working the deal to try to get behind Donnie. I mean, you know, there's no doubt about that. But it's very interesting to consider where these candidates all. Where I was going was this: we had a DEA agent come to one of the clubs I was associated with and give us a very lengthy presentation and ultimately discussion on marijuana. And of course, again, from the DEA's point of view, you know, it is a gateway drug. It is a gateway drug, and that's probably not good for our society. So I think there's lots of opinions out there as to.
It depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah,
If you're
and I
talking to
think,
the
yeah.
church, then they're going to say it's bad, you know, morality-wise.
Yeah, well,
Are you
anyway,
gonna
we need
talk-
to, yeah, I think.
You know, so it just depends on
There's
who
a
you're
lot of
talking to,
agreement
what
on
side
both
of the
sides
fence
of the
they're
aisle
on.
on both
Yeah,
ways,
that's
so
true.
stay tuned, because in 3 minutes we'll be right back to continue our segments on the presidential candidates this week. Jeb Bush.